Hi, you're watching Floyd Steinberg's YouTube channel, and today, the Woovebox. This tiny groovebox has already made some splashes in the synth community in the last weeks, but I thought you, the viewers of my channel, would be interested to see this here. This video is a short tutorial, so if you're interested, please join me in this video. Here we go. So, this package arrived from Australia today, and inside we find a small carrying box, and inside that there's a cheat sheet, this badge, the Woovebox itself, and this adapter cable. As you can see here, the user interface consists of 16 buttons, one encoder, and one 4-digit 2-line LC display. On the sides of this device there's an on-off switch, media in and output, audio in, a USB port used for charging, and a headphone jack. Inside this absolutely tiny device, there's a lot to discover. There's a 16-track sequencer here and a 16-part multi-timbral synthesizer, which serves virtual analog, FM, and sample-based sounds. All sounds can be edited on device. There's an effects section here with reverb, chorus, delay, distortion, resampling, and bit crushing, and a sampler that can capture samples over the audio in jack. You can also import WAV files, and you can export this song as MIDI or audio. External devices can be sequenced too. This video is not meant to be a complete overview. Instead, I'll show you how to create one or two sequences, arrange them into a song using the synths and the sampler. People who watched my Yamaha QY70 and QY100 videos previously will be delighted to learn about one or two features of the sequencer which might feel familiar and only recently showed up in one or two new devices. So let's create a simple track. After turning on, you're on the song screen. Here you can set up various properties of your song, for example the tempo and the key it's in by pressing the buttons that are lit up. To change a parameter, hold down the key and turn the encoder. For example, I'll reduce the song's tempo this way. Hold the play button and turn the encoder to adjust the overall output volume. Press and hold the encoder to select one of the 16 tracks. Each track fulfills a certain role in your song. There is a chord track, a bass track, a lead and an arpeggiator track, and individual tracks for bass drum, snare drum, hi-hats, and so on. There are abbreviations printed next to the buttons, so you can see what's what. We'll start on track 5, the bass drum track, hold the encoder, push the 5th button and release both. Now you can push play to start playback, then hold right and push all the buttons where the bass drum sound should be heard. For a 4 to the floor beat, push all the buttons in the leftmost column, for example. Pressing a button without holding right will select the sounder node assigned to that button, so you can write it to the sequencer slots next. Let's add a hi-hat track. Press the encoder and button 7, then hold right and push all the buttons in the 3rd column. The hi-hat sound is much too dominant now, so here's another important technique. Hold down the step button. You can then push the encoder multiple times to cycle through some parameters. Select velocity and then turn the encoder to adjust. Encoder and 9 will give you clap sound, which I'll place on the 2 and the 4. Encoder and 8 will select the crash cymbal sound, which I'll place on the 4. As this soon becomes grating, let's add a conditional statement so the crash cymbal will be heard every 4th track only. To achieve this, hold down the step button with the crash cymbal and press the encoder multiple times until the display reads when. Then turn the encoder until the display reads 1 of 4. Now the crash cymbal will play every 4th measure only. There are more conditional statements available here, but that's for you to discover. Next up is the bass. Press encoder and 2 to change to the bass track. Then hold right and activate all the steps that should have a bass note. I'll just punch in some eighth notes because I'm lazy and I want to show the delay effect later. Now let's select the bass patch. Turn the encoder all the way to the right until the screen reads patch. Then press the buttons for longer than 1 second to select one of the 16 patches. After finding one, turn the encoder left to go to the global screen. Hold down button 15 and turn the encoder to adjust the amount of delay effect for the bass track. Each track can have its own reverb, chorus and delay amount here. Press encoder and 4 to add arpeggiated notes. Enter them in the same way as the bass notes. The arpeggiator track lets you choose notes from the chord currently played only. Now, let's take a look at the chord track. Press encoder and 1 and then first play some chords. Not only will you hear a chord being played, but also the other instruments will follow accordingly, so to speak, which is a great and musical feature. The upper 8 buttons will play major chords and the lower 8 buttons will play minor chords. I'll enter a very simple chord progression of F minor and C minor here, then turn the encoder to go to the pattern screen and hold down the first button. This is the beat divisor, and changing it to 4 will divide the beats per minute for this track only by 4, allowing you to enter a chord progression that spans 4 measures. Turning the encoder right will take you to all the synth parameter screens. I'll go to the filter page and lower the cutoff frequency a bit. If you search around here, you will find all the tools of a subtractive synth like envelopes, LFOs and so on here. Even frequency modulation is possible. Press like and subscribe now if you want to see more on this in an upcoming video. Now let's use the sampler. You can use the audio in to sample yourself, or you can upload samples over Bluetooth, which is what I'm going to do here. So first download a Bluetooth MIDI app from the App Store, then open the Wooveconnect webpage, turn on the Woovebox while pressing the 1 button, and then scan for new Bluetooth devices. The webpage will let you upload WAV files to the box. Once all the samples are uploaded, press the encoder and 14 to go to the sample editor. Your samples are stored in so-called kits, and there are 16 kits at 16 slices each. Hold play and press the buttons until you find the kit you just created. You can then listen to your samples by pushing the buttons.
Move real slow, take it on.
Now press the encoder and the track you want to use your sample kit on, in my example track 11. Go to the globals page and hold button 7 and turn the encoder to change the track's behavior to sample kit. Then go to the last page patch, hold the right button and press the encoder until the screen reads init patch. Hold the encoder for 3 seconds to initialize the patch. Then go to the oscillator 1 page, hold the 1 button and select the sample kit you created previously, in my case kit 2. Depending on the length of your samples, you may want to adjust the amp envelope so it has a long decay and sustain phase when you trigger it. Back on the globals page, we can now add a bit of delay by holding button 15 and adjusting with the encoder. And here's what we have so far. I know this isn't great music, but I hope it's a good video explanation so far, so you can create better tracks than me. And after this, I'll also use the box to sequence my Novation Peak synth, so stick around if you want to see that. Oh, by the way, if you like content like this, and if you want to see more on devices like this in the future, please press the like button now and consider subscribing to my channel. And if you want to support what I'm doing here financially, you can join my Patreon or this YouTube channel using the button under this video. Thank you very much. Verdict. I enjoyed my time with this tiny groovebox a lot. It's a focused on music device smaller than a smartphone that sounds great, comes with a deep synth engine and a sampler, and even provides you with harmonization tools. There are so many features here that it's nearly impossible to list them all. But if you're looking for a certain electronic music production technique, chances are it's featured here. I also have to mention that due to its strict design conventions, this is the first hardware device that I could use without looking at it. So, if you're a person who likes to create some musical ideas before going to bed without disturbing others, this might be information relevant to you. Some of its greatest strengths might be a reason of concern for you though. The screen is tiny and full of abbreviations, though you can get a more complete text when holding down the buttons you're using. And of course, this is another 16-step sequencer, and while there are workarounds, certain musical genres or phrases just won't work with that limitation. Or the workarounds you'll need to find are awkward and hard to remember. And that's probably the biggest criticism here. This box has the steepest learning curve I've ever experienced so far. Right out of the box, after turning it on, you'll be stunned to even get a single note out of it. Learning the long and short presses and the right order in which to perform them is very hard at first, until you learn the guidelines and principles behind the user interface. At that point, it becomes second nature. All in all, I'd rate this mini synth workstation 4.5 out of 5 woofs. Yeah, and that's it for today. The Woovebox, an incredible portable and small groove box, the brainchild of only one person, and in so far an astounding achievement, and for me personally the most fun I had with a new hardware synthesizer in a very long time. And if you found this video helpful or interesting, please consider subscribing to my channel. And as always, thanks for watching and see you again very soon. Bye bye!